My mom has it, and she has had it for many, many years. She had it 10 plus years. It was in my family. Always was aware that my mom had it. No one else in the family had it. That was kind of the extent that I thought of it, like, okay, my mom had it. I started doing research about it to find out things that she was going through because we would talk often. Me and my mom are very close. And this was like years and years ago. I seen her go through getting diagnosed because she was diagnosed with everything from lupus to all different types of autoimmune diseases until they finally was able to diagnose her with multiple sclerosis after running a number of tests. So I seen that her go through that, but never knowing, I'm going to eventually go through it or even could possibly have it at one point. So about 2 years ago, right around the same time, right before I started J. Marie, I was experiencing just all kind of stuff. The first thing that kind of stands out to me that I remember, I always been a person who wore contacts and glasses.
Okay.
But I've always been blind, unfortunately. But just saying that I never had good vision. But I started to notice my right eye was always blurry or just always something going on with my right eye. And I would always be going back and forth to different specialists. I had to go back and forth to an eye doctor, and they were telling me I had some white mass in about showing up behind my eye. So I started getting testing done for that. No diagnosis at the time. So I kind of just left it at that because it wasn't anything found that they needed to immediately remove or anything like that. They were just saying, hey, you need to start setting up appointments with neurologists and kind of get some MRIs and scannings done to find out what those masks that we're seeing are.
Mm-hmm.
So I know this sounds horrible, but after going to the eye doctor and them saying, well, most people have it, it's nothing abnormal, it's not a tumor or anything like that, so it's not anything that you should be concerned about. I kind of left it alone at that. But then I started experiencing these tingling feelings all over my body. It would be like
Whoa.
felt like something was sticking me, like just
Mhm.
little pins everywhere. I would get the feeling all in my face, all in my lips, all down my body. Then it would sometimes feel like a burning sensation, and it will alternate between the two.
Wow.
And then I started developing really bad anxiety. Then my pressure would always be high as if something was wrong. I would go back and forth to emergency, and they would always say, well, you do have very high elevated white blood cells. And if anybody knows anything about the body,
Mm-hmm.
when you have elevated white cell count,
Oh,
that means that something's going on.
my.
Yeah. So I kind of was getting testing done. They didn't find anything there. So I was just like, okay, what's going on? I heard diagnoses everywhere from, well, this can happen with high blood pressure. You have high blood pressure. So I was put on medication. Oh, you're obese, so I was told to go on a diet. Oh, it could be stress. So do these things for stress. And it was like I was doing all those things and still experiencing more and more of those symptoms. But then more things started happening from
Oh,
me losing my balance to forgetting what I'm saying in the middle of the sentence. And I never do that. Like, I'm not a forgetful person. Very sharp, if I could say myself. I'm always like on point, and I would literally be in the middle of talking about something, and it would just be gone. Like, literally, I would just sit there and be like,
what was
"This
I
is
saying?
crazy. What?
Yeah.
Yeah, like what was I?" It was crazy. I never experienced that before. So I had all these things going on simultaneously, sometimes all at the same time, sometimes one at a time. Then, which I'm still dealing with this, I started developing a loud ringing in my ear, and it was diagnosed with pulsatile tinnitus.
Yes.
So I'm like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
all these different things going on. What's wrong? Like, somebody needs to tell me what's going on. So anybody who deals with the healthcare industry, to see certain specialists, a neurologist in particular, can take a long time.
Correct.
So finally, I was able to get with a neurologist who ran a number of tests and kind of kept saying, well, no, it's not this, it's not that, it's not that, until I had a spinal tap done, which is the worst.
Oh,
I pray for everybody who ever had it, people who had babies. I don't see how you guys dealt with it because it was the worst thing ever. And with that spinal tap, they were able to diagnose me with that. So I've just kind of been dealing with it because it's still new to me. Now me doing more research and kind of connecting the things I've seen my mom go through, I'm saying, oh, okay. Okay,
Right.
that makes sense. Because I would be shopping with my mom and she would do that all the time. Like we would be shopping and she'll be like toppling over and I'll be like, what, why are you doing that? Like getting irritated, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Or she'll be talking and say, well, I forgot, what was that? And I was like, oh, here she go. I would think she was just being extra. It sounds so mean out loud, but I did. And it was able to make me connect and say, oh, wow, I was experiencing the same things she was experiencing. So that's how it happened.
So, I mean, first of all, we're in the month of, breast cancer awareness, domestic violence, and I also have a lot of friends who are advocates within the social justice and medical community. And one of the things that I want to celebrate you on right now is advocating for your health. Because oftentimes
Yeah.
the journey that you had to go through, many people, like you said, would have just given up but thank you for advocating for your health. And
You're welcome.
where is
Thanks for saying that.
yeah, definitely. Because that's a struggle for people, period, and Black women more specifically.
Yeah. You know what? You make such a great point because to be honest with you, that was one of the major factors in me moving because I felt like I was not getting care that I needed in the city of Detroit because and this isn't to say anything in particular about the healthcare system. Maybe it
Right.
could be that are overwhelmed considering that it is a major city. So a lot of times you're not going to get that attention. And then a lot of people come in for these things all the time. So a lot of times, especially if you're going to hospitals that are downtown and you're coming in saying you're having anxiety, the first thing they're asking you is what kind of drugs you doing? Oh, okay. Or, everything is kind of
traffic. Yeah, well, traffic was hectic. Maybe your pressure's elevated.
right. Right. So it's like I would always get these kind of mediocre responses, and I would just be like, you know what? I'm not going back to the emergency room for what? For you guys to tell me, oh, lose some weight. Everybody who's obese have,
Right.
every. So it was just like, okay, I don't want to hear that anymore. I don't want to deal with it. So you are so right. Most people would give up because, to be honest with you, I did. And it was my mom pushing me to say, you need to go ask them for this test. You need to tell them you need this. You need to stay on top of these appointments and follow up and make them, look into things.
Yes.
And I did it. It would be many a days where I would be in so much pain or dealing with something and I would just not even go to the hospital or anything because I would feel like, well, they're going to just send me home anyway and tell me is this or is this. But the actually going back a little bit, if I can, when I seen a neurologist, what prompted that appointment was I actually was rushed to the hospital because I was experiencing all these different symptoms and I was just like, something is not right because I do not feel like myself. And they had went through my chart and said, well, we do see that you have speculations or suspect that there is MS. Have you had XYZ done? And it was a doctor. I actually through the Beaumont health system. So I really appreciate them because they were kind of the system that kind of got everything rolling because one doctor said, why haven't you had this test yet? What's going on with this? What's going on with that? And he was like, you know what? I want to keep you. We're going to admit you and we're going to do a treatment of steroid. We're going to put you on a steroid pump and see how your body reacts to that. And then they did that and vision cleared up. Tingling, all those stuff stopped. And he was like, okay, I want you to go see a neurologist and get tested because usually people who have symptoms of multiple sclerosis, well, have already been diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, they're on some form of treatment or medication, whether it be like baclofen or some type of injection.
Yes.
But they usually react to steroids because what it does is slows down the progression of that your myelin sheath being ripped from your nerves. It slows it down. So by my body reacting to it so well, he was like, okay, your mom has it. This happened, he just kind of brought it all together and set those appointments up.
Honey, can I just say praise God?
Won't he do it? And he is still going to do much because you know what? I know I did a podcast the other day